Hello yogis, my name is April and welcome to the Yoga Ranger Studio and welcome to our practice today. Today we're going to be working with the IT bands in just a couple of poses that do a lot to really help stretch this space of the IT bands. There's this big strip down each side. It runs from up higher up in the hip and all the way down into the outside of the knee. And this is a big span of fascial tissue that for a lot of people gets very tense and tight and stuck. I know from my personal experience, I spent a lot of time kind of unwinding the tension of this space with rolling out, which does work very effectively, but along with rolling out, some of these poses will really help as well. For this practice, all you will need will be one beach towel or blanket. This is optional, but I like to have a little extra support for these poses just to help me find a sustainable pose that works better for me. So we're going to start in deer pose. You can use this blanket folded up to sit on the very edge. Come to bring the bottoms of the feet together to begin with for our pose. And then sitting up nice and tall, kind of finding your space here. You're going to lean over to the left, take that right leg back behind you. Now, how far that leg goes back behind you depends a lot on your body, so it may not look anything like mine. That's okay too. But what you want to do is you want to have that blanket give you that little bit of support so that you're not tilting super far over, that you have a little bit more leveling. That may mean that you're going to feel a lot more in this inner thigh and this outer leg. We're looking for that, so that might be a little bit uncomfortable but not painful. You can always use props underneath your knees to give you some support or pull your knee in closer to the middle. So starting with your hand, one hand on the outside, one hand on the inside. Taking some nice deep breaths. I know this is not everyone's favorite pose, but it does have a lot of benefits for the IT band and for the thigh overall and the inner leg. So we're hitting a lot of spaces in this leg space. And once you're upright, if you want to stay here, you can. If you'd like, you can start to fold a little bit more forward. Maybe you come all the way down to the floor. Maybe you don't. Find that space for you. And here that space would be 60% of your maximum or so, 2/3. So maybe you can come all the way to the floor, but you come up just a little bit. Notice your breath and notice whatever sensations come up here. Allow your breath to be deep and full, 3-part breath, belly, chest, collarbones. Notice if you're holding any muscle tension in the leg. Just breathe into that space. Feel yourself sort of ironing that out and releasing that muscle tension so we can get deeper into that connective tissue. Slowly starting to come back up, leaning over a little bit to the left, using your right hand to pull that right leg back around. Maybe waving your butterfly wings. In that pose, we're working with both IT bands at the same time in a slightly different positioning. This time, leaning over to our right, taking that left leg back around behind you, or whichever leg you didn't do first. Noticing this side may be vastly different than the other, you may need to adjust how far you go back or where you place your feet. Or positioning here, one hand to the outside, one hand to the inside. Start with upright, and you can use the blanket to kind of give you a little bit of grounding there and to bring the floor up a little bit higher to you. And then gently, if you would like, starting to fold forward, finding that place where you have 2/3 of your maximum sensation. Notice if this side is more challenging or a little bit easier. Just breathing into the muscles, releasing that muscle tension. Just one more minute. Starting to lift yourself back up, leaning a little bit over to the right, this time using your left hand to slowly move that left leg back into place. Here, waving your butterfly wings or making whatever movement you would like with your body to help that time in between poses. The next pose we're going to take is shoelace pose. A couple of options here. If you don't like shoelace pose, you can always take your left leg out straight, cross that right over, and take a half shoelace pose. It still works very strongly with the outer part of the leg. Still a great pose. If you would like to take shoelace another way, you can take that left leg, take the right leg, cross it over. I like to use a blanket underneath my hips to give me a little bit of support. If your legs fall out to the side and your feet come up to the front, that's fine. If they tuck back behind you, that's fine too. If they're only sort of halfway, those are all fine, right? We're gonna start with a little lateral stretch here. So take those left fingers over the left right arm up and over and just stretch over to the side. Maybe the fingers go out further. Think of that right hip as being very heavy toward the floor. You can really move through that space of the outer right thigh. Sweeping that right arm back alongside your hips. You can stay upright here, or you can start to fold forward. And actually walking your hands just a little bit over to the left. So you're going to give that little extra curve here. I'm going to move a little bit more into the outside of the hip. Maybe one IT band is a lot more tense and tight and wound up than the other. So you may feel this more on this side or on the other side. Whatever you feel, just taking some nice deep breaths. So maybe inhaling through your nose, exhaling through your mouth. Releasing that tension. Starting to walk your hands back up, unwinding your foot. Maybe taking the feet flat, knees up toward the ceiling and rocking side to side a little bit here, windshield wipers. I always find that in a rebound, I really want to take a nice deep inhale and a nice exhale throughout the mouth. Some poses you're very happy to leave, some poses you're very happy to stay in. So here again, depending on how you feel on this side, and you may feel differently, you can take that right leg out straight, cross the left over it, or you can tuck it back behind you, crossing that left leg over, using the blanket for a little prop. This side will be different, so just respecting and honoring that wherever you're at. Walking the right fingers over to the right, and taking that left hand up and over for this first few breaths. Coming back up through center, and then either staying upright or folding forward. You're going to walk your hands a little bit over to the right this time. Maybe hands on either side of that left toe or left foot. Just a few more breaths. Starting to walk your hands back up, unwinding, taking your feet flat, knees toward the ceiling, moving however you feel best for you. That could be windshield wipers, it could be legs out straight, bouncing and twisting. And then coming back through center, sitting however you like. Thank you so much for joining me for this practice. I hope that helped open up a little bit of space in the IT bands. I know that from experience of having my IT bands freeze up a lot. I've had my left one, a lot of work with massage therapy and rolling out. If you have that on either side, or you just feel like there's like some restriction to your movement in the outer leg, going ahead and using myofascial release, rolling out with tennis balls or therapy balls, and also doing this practice to help move that space and open it and give it a little room to breathe can really help. I haven't had freezing up happen since I've really started using yin and myofascial release a lot in this space. So it's just something to consider. Great for if you are a runner and you're doing a lot of running competitively or otherwise. Also great for anybody who just has some tightness in the outside of their legs, outside of their hips as well. So use this practice morning, before or after your yang style practice, or in the middle of the afternoon, or at night, or after you've done some sort of sport, really to kind of help open up this space. So a great stretch before and after running or other recreational sports. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful week.